Good to see you all tonight. So we're working on the guard this week. Specifically, we're working on two different sections. Guard retention is kind of our overarching theme, okay? But the position that we're using to control our opponent tonight and for this week was the spider guard. When we're going over a couple different sweeping options, we're systemizing our approach to this, meaning we're creating like a family tree of attacks that we can utilize. We're not just throwing out random things and hope they stick. We're trying to attack based on how our opponent reacts. So tonight we're going to go over another sweep option and a variation of that that's really going to fit in nicely with the spider guard sweeps in the system that we were working on. So let's first remind ourselves of our main sweeping concept in Jiu-Jitsu. So our main sweeping concept in Jiu-Jitsu is going to require us to control a lever on our opponent's body and then start to shift their center of gravity. Every sweep you're going to learn in Jiu-Jitsu will follow that concept. So if we can start to use that as our litmus test for our sweeps to make sure that we're actually being efficient with our technique, then we're going to be way better in the long run because we're going to know that we're using proper technique and efficiency. So let's kind of look at what we were looking at last class. We're going to touch on it very quickly here. So again, I was starting in a seated guard. My opponent's sitting on his knees. A lot of our sweeping system that we've learned in the past requires us to get lever control via our opponent's legs. And if he's sitting on that in his knees, that kind of goes out the window. But we preface this by saying that an opponent sitting on their knees generally will not provide a very dangerous or a very threatening guard pass situation, right? If he's sitting on his knees, he's literally cut his legs in half. It's not likely that he's going to pass my guard unless I make some ridiculous errors, okay? When we're attacking with the spider guard, we force movement by utilizing that lever control to shift our opponent's shoulders. So from here, we used our spider guard with our double inside position to first hit our basic sweep, where we kick them over, and of course we always come up on top. Coming up on top refers to me getting my body above my opponent's hips, and in this situation we like to maintain the double lever control. It just allows us to separate their limbs to attack easier. We looked at another variation where once we got to the spider guard, our opponent opted to stand up, and when they stood up, that first variation that we looked at was out the window, right? So we're here, and again, my opponent stands up. The first variation I have goes out the window. I can't extend his shoulder and his elbow high enough to start to use his spine to act as a lever to shift him over. So what we looked at instead was to bring his posture down towards me by accessing the lever on his hip to push it out. Now, once I'm here, I'm able to sweep him much easier. So again, we've created so far a system of two sweeps. Our opponent's kneeling, we hit that spider sweep. The opponent goes to stand, we spread their base wide, and we hit the exact same spider sweep. Now we're going to look at another variation where our opponent stands up, but they're keeping the lever control a little bit more hidden, meaning that they're going to keep their legs closer together, making it hard for us to push their leg back. So we're going to go over what we call the mermaid sweep tonight. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate it first, and then we'll talk about it. Here we go. So this is a mermaid sweep. It's referred to as a mermaid sweep because when you're doing this, your opponent's knees are going to get bound together in like this, well, mermaid-esque looking position, right? But let's look at how this sweep is actually working here. So we're playing spider guard, and our opponent goes to stand. But again, when they stand, they're not going to keep their legs wide here because he knows that I can start to step and extend his center of gravity. So what he's going to do instead is he's going to keep his legs close to me, and he's going to retract. Yes, he's going to make sure that he has very little lever opportunities available. So what we're going to do here is instead of trying to push one knee back, my spider hooks are going to drop, and I'm going to change two levers into one giant lever. So by wrapping my legs around his knees, I'm binding his knees together, making it much more difficult for him to start to step his legs in opposite directions, and of course, making my sweep more inevitable. So in order to sweep him, again, let's remember our concept. I need to control a lever on his body, and then I need to control his center of gravity. Well, the first part, we're golden, right? We have really solid lever control in two forms, legs and arms. Now, the second part requires us to shift our opponent's center of gravity. So to do that, we need to start to bring our opponent's hips over to one side. Now, if I were to just start pushing Coach Seth with my arms, he has an arm available that he can use to post. Boom, so he can catch himself. So what I need to do instead is I need to restrict his ability to utilize his arms. So we're going to take his arms and we're going to be crossing them here. Now, it's going to be much more difficult for him to post out and make a meaningful force vector for him to stop himself. But additionally, I need to start to get his weight moving forward. If you were to try to do this on someone way bigger and stronger than you, it doesn't matter how strong you are, and if I just start trying to tip him, it's really easy for him to just sit there and hunker down. So what I want to do is, before I start to tip him, I'm going to pull him towards me like I'm making him look like Superman. I'm reaching his hands forward. Notice how this starts to shift his center of gravity. We'll rotate here so we can see this profile view. So notice how as I pull his arms, he starts to lean forward. But now I'm not going to wait. As soon as I've got his center of gravity shifted above his feet, that's when I cross and I tip. So again, I'm here, I pull, cross, and I tip him over. Now, notice my finishing position. I need to maintain lever control at all points if possible. Remember, control of our opponent's levers or limbs of their body allows us to create much more powerful attack opportunities. So I'm still maintaining this knee bind with my legs. I'm still maintaining my double sleeve grips. Nothing's changed so far. But now I'm going to start getting up. As I start to come up on top, I want to keep the knee bind and aim to get my hips right up on top of his to finish in the mount. If anyone's familiar with Khabib Nurmagomedov, right, the lightweight UFC champion, he's really, really good at binding the legs when he's attacking top positions. This is essentially the same concept. I'm binding his knees together here, posting on my elbow, and now I'm going to drive my hips forward past his knees. So it's almost like I'm doing a little pelvic thrust action. So I'm, boom, pushing my hips forward, and again, finishing on top with double lever control here. So we'll show a side profile view, and I want you guys to make sure that you're very observant with how I'm coming up on top, because it can be a little bit tricky to come up as if I'm holding on to all of his arms and legs. So let's actually rotate this way so we can see the rear as I come up. So again, guys, we're starting with the spider guard. Maybe my partner's already standing. No problem at all. So I'm going to get double sleeve. I fall back to double inside position using these spider hooks. But again, I can't step and push his leg out, right? He's denying that access. So instead, we bind his knees together. When I'm here, I could just tip him. I could just try to overwhelm him with my strength. But remember, if I'm using strength as my reason that I'm winning, I'm not doing good jiu-jitsu, right? Your strength is going to fail you when this person's better than you are. So I need to utilize good technique and try to use good biomechanics to make them fall. So I shift his center of gravity, deny him base, and then make him fall. I'm posted on my left elbow. This is my point to generate base to drive off of. I'm maintaining the leg bind, and now I'm going to start to drive my hips forward and finish in the mount. If you don't hit the mount perfectly, that's fine. What matters is that we're coming up and getting on top and expressing control in that way. Now, I want to real quick talk about some concepts for the top person, because this is a very awkward fall. And it's not dangerous by any means, but it's just a really awkward fall because you really don't have anything to catch yourself with. So some of our concepts for break falls. When possible, we want to have as big of a surface area hit the ground as possible. If I fall and I fall directly on my fingertip, I'm going to break my fingertip. But if I fall and my entire side hits the ground, I'm going to be A-okay. I also want to make sure that I'm not falling on the hard parts of my body, like bones. I want to fall on the soft parts of my body. So what I want you to think of is, as you're falling, you're going to crumple, all right, like I'm just disintegrating and falling down to the mat. Okay, so again, he gets his grips, he extends me and crosses, and notice how my hips touch first, right? The softer part of my body. I don't want to hit with my rib cage, keeping my head up. That way I don't hit my head, and now I'm A-okay. So I just want to make sure that we're all very clear on when you're falling, making sure you're staying safe, because this can be a little bit precarious for the top person because there's like nothing they can really stick out to catch themselves. Okay, guys? I'll demonstrate once more without talking, and then we'll see if we have any questions. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, guys, does anyone have any questions on this Mermaid Sweep? Yes, sir? Great question, Eric, great question. It's not so much a tucking motion because there's really, it's hard for me to tuck because his legs are in the way, but I am gonna be pulling him towards me. I'm not trying to elevate him. I'm not trying to like lift him up and suspend him in the air. I'm just trying to get him to do this, lean. That's all I'm looking to do, but yes, I am tucking a little bit with my knees. Any other questions, guys? All right.
I wanted to add, guys, some of you, I guarantee you're gonna have problems getting up efficiently to the mount as you're keeping that leg bind all the way. So one thing that always helps new people is if you are having trouble, first remember, get up on your elbow. Then if you're really having trouble getting in front of these knees, because this is the crucial thing, if you just get up willy-nilly, he's going to have guard. So you need to get up by putting your weight forward a little bit. This will really help get your hips light so you can shove your hips forward and get past that guard sooner. Okay, so don't be afraid to drive your head down, and this goes for a lot of things, chair sits and stuff as well. So once they're down, bury your head, get your butt high, and drive your hips forward to get past that guard sooner. All right, guys?
All right, any questions, guys? Yes, ma'am.
Ideally, you do want them to be flat on their back when you come up, though.
Always, absolutely.
Unless you can access the back.
Yeah, we're always trying to get them flat. All right, let's get it, guys. 1, 2. Okay, how are we all feeling? Any questions on this variation or this mermaid sweep that we were just doing?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes also called a knee bind sweep for obvious reasons because we're binding the knees together. But I want again to reiterate the concept so that way you guys know the why that we're doing here. I'm getting lever control on my opponent via taking 2 levers, turning them into 1, double lever control here, and then again, we're shifting their center of gravity to make them fall. All right, and you can do that with every sweep you learn. And I want you, it often is going to behoove you to look back on the techniques you've learned in the past and be like, okay, where was the lever control? Where was the center of gravity shift? And now I know why that sweep works. Let's look at another option though. Some of you may have run into this problem, and that's going to be when we're attempting the mermaid sweep and our opponent understands what's happening, and they understand that in order for me to sweep him, I need to shift his center of gravity over my head, right? I need to force him to do this to make him lean forward. So to compensate for that, they're going to lean backwards. So he's basically just going to sit back like he's sitting in a chair. Exactly, here. So now what's the problem? I can't load up his weight to shift it. I can't move his center of gravity to move it and make him fall. So instead, as always, I'm just going to push his center of gravity in the direction he's taking it. We have a little concept in jiu-jitsu where I want to take my opponent's direction of their force and push it further than what they intend. He wants to go backwards, but I'm going to push him further. If he's trying to defend by leaning forward, I'm going to pull him further. So what we're going to do is this. As I'm pulling here and he's defending, he's leaning back. So all I'm going to do is start to come up and drive him back in the direction he's already leaning. Now, let's look at how this is going to work. So we're doing a form of a technical get-up, right? A technical get-up is any motion where we generate base by widening our legs before coming up on our knees, okay? This particular form of a technical get-up is really easy. We're folding one knee underneath us, and we're pushing our hips above that knee and building up to an active toe in the back, okay? So that way I have good base, a wide surface area that I can stand on. Let's look at how I do that in application here. So I'm playing spider. I go here for the mermaid sweep. I'm pulling, but he's leaning back. All I'm going to do is I'm going to start to let go of this. I'm going to open up my legs, and I'm going to start to roll forward and reach for his knee. As I do that, I'm going to sit up and fold my leg right behind his. Now notice, my other foot is coming back behind me. Once I'm in this position, guys, all I'm going to do is just basically wrestle up like I'm trying to attack a double leg of sorts. Obviously, this is not a clean-looking double leg, but we're basically just tackling him. Here. Now let's look at our finishing position. I am way below the knee. I'm not going to be able to jump up to the mount, okay? I'm ending up in a pretty tight butterfly guard, okay? So I can start working my butterfly guard passing, or if we end up here, boom, I can just look to disengage and then utilize our passing system that we've been going over as well. All right, so let's run that from the top. All right, guys, so I'm playing I'm playing spider. Insects, here we go. Boom, so I'm going for the mermaid. I'm trying to pull, but he sits back. As soon as I feel him resisting, he's going backwards, I follow him. And I come up here. All right, now for this particular fall, again, crumple, bend your knees, and roll back with it. It's okay, and I was telling this to a group, again, another concept for break falls. It's okay to stick a limb out to catch yourself, provided that the angle of your limb is not perpendicular. If I ever try to catch myself with a perpendicular limb, you're going to break your wrist. All right? So as you notice, when Coach Seth was falling, his forearm went out here. So he was not 90 degrees, and then he collapsed. All right, let's show this again from the front. Notice I'm still maintaining a strong knee bind though, right? I don't want to just kind of lazily come up on top. A nice strong knee bind. And if you notice here, your opponent's knees may be shifted in a direction. All right, some of us who have been doing this a little bit longer can now recognize that his guard is turned, so I can start to look for my leg weaves, tight waist, and start passing. All right, again, we're constantly trying to systemize and chain together our attacks so that we're blurring the lines rather between passing, sweeping, back takes, etc., etc. Let's do one more demonstration of this. That's the word. We'll do it from the side view. Okay, guys, does anybody have any questions on this last variation of the Mermaid Sweep?
Does it matter which leg you sweep in with?
Good question. Not really, no. It's whatever you're comfortable. I'm personally more comfortable folding my right leg, which means that because I like to fold my right leg, I reach with my left arm here. Because if you notice, if I do this, it's kind of awkward. I don't have a hand to post on. So it's opposite corners, right? This corner posted, this corner posted. So I'm here. If any of you guys are familiar with our sweeping system, the ankle pick, it's the identical type of stand-up, right? Where I'm here, let's say I attack the dummy sweep and he steps back to stagger, boom. The ankle pick is almost the exact same variation of the technical stand-up there. So you can kind of think of it in that sort of picture too. So if I pantomime, I'm here, going from the mermaid, he leans back, I feel him, right? I'm using that regulated tension to feel when he resists. So as he's leaning back, boom. I follow him, go up on top. Use control, brace yourself as the top person, make sure you don't fall from the full extent of your height. Okay, if you're 5'11", don't fall through 5 feet and 11 inches worth of space. Shrink, collapse, and then roll out. Cool, any questions? Let's go, 1, 2.